What if I told you that the iconic beat of Michael Jackson's Thriller, the very rhythm that made history, almost never existed? That a disastrous drum machine demo nearly derailed the greatest album of all time and threatened to end Michael's career before it truly began? This is the untold story of how a 72-hour creative crisis transformed a lifeless beat into a supernatural groove that changed music forever. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear will completely change how you think about Thriller and the genius behind it. In March 1982, Michael Jackson was under immense pressure. Following the massive success of Off the Wall, the world was watching to see if he could deliver again. Epic Records was pushing hard, radio stations were eager, and the music industry was waiting for the next big thing. Michael and legendary producer Quincy Jones had been working tirelessly on what would become Thriller, but they hit a wall, specifically with the title track. They had the concept nailed, a horror movie vibe, Vincent Price's chilling spoken word, and a vision for a song that was scary yet irresistibly funky. But the beat, the heartbeat of the song, was a disaster. The original rhythm was slow, dull, and lifeless. Imagine Thriller as a funeral dirge instead of a dance anthem. The drum machine programming sounded amateurish. The bass line lacked groove and soul, and Quincy later described it as deader than the zombies we were trying to sing about. Michael was frustrated beyond words. He could hear the song perfectly in his mind, feel the energy it should have, but every attempt to bring it to life fell flat. He paced the studio at Westlake Recording in Los Angeles, humming melodies and beatboxing rhythms, trying to communicate the feeling to the musicians and engineers. It's supposed to make people move, he insisted. It's supposed to be scary, but funky. It's supposed to make you want to dance, even though you're terrified. Despite their efforts, the song remained lifeless. The situation grew dire. They had already spent a huge chunk of the recording budget, and Epic Records executives were making threatening calls. Rumors swirled that Michael might be a one-hit wonder, that Off the Wall was a fluke, and that he lacked the staying power to succeed as a solo artist. Then came the breaking point on March 15, 1982. Michael arrived at the studio with what he believed was the perfect solution. A new beat he had crafted at home using a primitive drum machine. Excited, he called Quincy at 6 a.m. to come in early and hear it. But when Quincy played the demo, the result was worse than anything before. The rhythm was mechanical, generic, and utterly uninspiring, more suited to an elevator than a dance floor. It had no funk, no groove, no soul. It was, in Quincy's words, musical suicide. Quincy stopped the playback after just 30 seconds, ejected the tape, and threw it across the studio in frustration. "Michael," he said, "if we use this beat, we will destroy your career." The room fell silent. Michael was devastated. He had been so sure this was the answer, so convinced he had found the missing piece. Now he felt crushed and defeated. "I don't know what to do anymore," he admitted quietly. "I can hear it in my head, but I can't make it real. Maybe they're right. Maybe I don't have another album in me." This was the lowest point in what would become one of the greatest success stories in music history. The future king of pop was ready to give up on the song that would define his career. The album that would become the best-selling of all time was on the brink of collapse, all because of a beat that just wouldn't come together. But Quincy Jones was not a man to give up. Having worked with legends like Frank Sinatra and Aretha Franklin, he knew that sometimes the greatest breakthroughs come from the darkest moments. "We're not giving up," Quincy declared. "We're going back to basics. We're going to strip this whole thing down and build it from scratch. But first, we need to understand what we're really trying to create here." What happened next was nothing short of revolutionary. Instead of relying on machines, Quincy and Michael went back to the most fundamental human element, the heartbeat. Yes, they literally recorded Michael's heartbeat, and used it as the foundation for the new rhythm. This bold move sparked a creative explosion that saved Thriller and changed music forever. Quincy called in Leon Ndugu Chancellor, one of the most innovative drummers in the business. They decided to start with a human heartbeat. Michael lay down on the studio floor while a microphone captured the sound of his chest pounding. Quincy explained, "This song is about fear, but it's also about excitement. It's about that moment when you're scared but can't look away. Your heart pounds, but it pounds in rhythm." Using Michael's heartbeat as the bass, Ndugu began crafting a drum pattern that matched the natural rhythm of a stressed human heart. It was faster than a resting heartbeat, but not so fast as to induce panic. The beat had a steady, hypnotic quality, like a heart beating in anticipation. The real magic happened when Anthony Jackson, the bass guitarist, joined in. Instead of simply following the heartbeat, he syncopated around it, creating a bass line that danced with the heartbeat. Rhythm. This interplay created tension and release, fear and excitement, all at once. The transformation was immediate and electrifying. What had been a lifeless, mechanical rhythm became organic, alive, and almost supernatural. The beat wasn't just supporting the song anymore, it was telling the story. Every bass drum thump felt like a footstep in a haunted house. Every hi-hat hit was a whisper in the dark. Michael's reaction was electric. The moment he heard the new rhythm, he jumped up and started moving. Not choreographed, just instinctive. "That's it!" he exclaimed. "That's exactly what I was hearing in my head." But the work wasn't over. Quincy knew the beat was only half the battle. The arrangement, layering of instruments, and the building of tension and release all had to serve this new rhythmic foundation. Over the next 48 hours, Michael and Quincy entered a creative frenzy that would become legendary. Greg Phillinganes' synthesizer work was built around the heartbeat rhythm, producing eerie, otherworldly sounds that seemed to breathe with the beat. Eddie Van Halen's guitar solo wasn't just a solo, it was a musical conversation with the rhythm section, embodying the battle between fear and excitement. Even Vincent Price's iconic spoken word section was timed perfectly to the heartbeat rhythm. His pacing synchronized with the pulse that began as Michael's own heartbeat. When it came time to mix the track, Quincy made a bold choice. Instead of burying the rhythm section behind vocals and melody, he pushed the drums and bass forward, making them equal partners with Michael's voice in telling the story. This was radical for the time but proved essential. When the finished Thriller was played back, the difference was miraculous. The dead, lifeless demo had transformed into a track pulsing with supernatural energy. The generic had become groundbreaking. Walter Yetnikoff, president of CBS Records, was the first outsider to hear the final track. His reaction was immediate and prophetic. "This doesn't sound like anything else on the radio. This is going to change everything." And he was right. The beat that almost ruined Thriller was replaced by a rhythm so innovative and perfectly crafted that it influenced dance music for decades. The Heartbeat Foundation became a blueprint for creating music that was both scary and irresistibly danceable. When Thriller was released in October 1982, DJs immediately recognized its power. The infectious beat made people move, and dance clubs worldwide found that playing Thriller transformed the energy of any room. The music video, directed by John Landis, took this synergy even further. The iconic zombie dance was choreographed, specifically to match the heartbeat rhythm, creating a perfect marriage of visual and musical storytelling. This video became one of the most influential pieces of media in history. Isn't it incredible that the song which almost ended Michael Jackson's career because of a terrible beat became the very track that crowned him the king of pop? The disaster that nearly destroyed Thriller turned into a masterpiece that still moves millions today. This story isn't just about music. It's about resilience, creativity, and the power of starting from the most human of places, the heartbeat. Michael later reflected on this experience as one of the most important lessons of his career. Sometimes, what sounds perfect in your head doesn't work in reality. You have to be willing to kill your babies, to discard your favorite ideas if they don't serve the song. Quincy Jones also credited the Thriller beat crisis with teaching him the power of starting from the most fundamental human elements. When you want to move people on a primal level, the rhythm of the human heart is the ultimate guide. The beat that saved Thriller didn't just save one song or one album, it set a new standard for rhythm in popular music. Every dance track since owes a debt to the innovative heartbeat groove that Quincy and Michael created. Today, producers still look to Thriller as the gold standard for crafting beats that connect deeply with listeners. The 72 hours that saved Thriller didn't just rescue a song, they created a blueprint for musical excellence that continues to inspire artists worldwide. Sometimes the greatest victories come when everything seems lost, when the only option is to strip everything down and rebuild from the most basic, most universal human elements. In the end, the beat that almost destroyed Thriller taught Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones that the most powerful music doesn't come from machines or tech.